All right, well, we're considering graphing equations in slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form, as we know by now, is y equals mx plus b. That's our definition of slope-intercept form. Y being the dependent variable, m being the slope, x being the independent variable, and plus b. B is our y-intercept. Now we get to do what we love to do the most, which is word problems. Let's see what we have here. The Band Boosters are selling sandwiches for $5 each. They bought $1,160 worth of ingredients to make those sandwiches. So first up, write an equation for the profit P made on N sandwiches, number of sandwiches. So P. Well, P is, I could say, is the dependent variable, or y, in the form of y equals mx plus b. And N is the independent variable. In other words, the number of sandwiches I sell is going to determine what my profit is. And profit in general, in a business context, is the amount of money after the gross sales less your cost. Well, now my cost is $1,160. That's how much I paid in ingredients. And let's get us a formula up here, an equation. So I got P, profit, equals, well, my independent variable, I'm going to substitute N for X. I'll substitute P for Y. And let's see, the slope, M, what's the slope? Well, I'm going to sell these sandwiches for $5. Now, depending on how many sandwiches I sell, that's going to determine my profit or maybe even my loss if I don't sell enough. So that's like my slope. So we can say this is 5N. But I've got $1,160 in cost. Well, that can be like my B. So my profit then is going to be 5 times the number of sandwiches I sell less $1,160, which is my cost of the ingredients. All right, well, there's my equation. P equals 5N minus 1160, 1,160. Now, the second thing it says is to graph the equation, and I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that in the calculator. And quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, most times if I was looking at this problem, well, I might graph it just so I could recognize what the equation looks like, what the graph looks like, if I've got a multiple choice question. But really, I'm zeroing in on this third part, which is what's the total profit if 1,400 sandwiches are sold. And kind of back to the equation, graphing the equation for a moment, I'm going to do that on the calculator because there's a couple of things about your calculator I want to show you that might be helpful to you as we move forward. But let's focus now on this third part. What's the total profit if 1,400 sandwiches are sold? Well, P is my profit. I'm selling the sandwiches for $5 each. If I sell 1,400 sandwiches, less my expenses of 1,160, that should give me my profit. So let's see, 5 times 1,400. Well, 5 times 1,000 is 5,000, and 5 times 400 is 2,000. So if I sell 1,400 sandwiches, that's going to be $7,000, I believe. Let me verify that with the calculator just to make sure. Let's see, if I sold 5 times 1,400, yep, that's 7,000, minus less the expenses of 1,160. And so what's my profit? So I've got 7,000 less 1,160. 5,840. So my profit is going to be 5,840. Okay. Well, let's jump over to the calculator. Like I say, there's a couple of things that I want to show you that you can do with your calculator, and particularly on a graph like this, which is going to be quite large. Well, all right, as promised, I'm over here on my calculator. I can see I did a histogram the last time I was on my calculator. I'm going to first go ahead and clear the history on this. Let's clear all this. And since I got a histogram on here, that tells me I was using a stat plot. So I'm going to go in here and turn it off. So I hit second y equals. And it brings up the stat plot. I see plot 1 is on. I want to turn it off. Okay. And I'm going to quit out of here since I've turned it off. And now I'm going to go into my y equals, and I'm going to enter that equation, which was 5 times the number of sandwiches, and I'm going to just use x instead of n, minus, I think it was 1,100, yeah, 1,160, 1160. All right, so I'm going to go here. Let's see. I better look at my window settings. I'm going to set it back to initially to the default settings, which is -10. And I know this is not going to show me anything, but uh-oh. I got the idiot sign. Go to, use the negative button, not the minus, not the subtraction button. -10, 10. I'm going to change my Y scale to just 1, and then -10 and 10 on my Y minimum, my Y max, scale of 1. And I'm going to hit the graph button, but I'm going to tell you I'm not going to see anything to speak of. Well, I got some weird stuff there. What have I got here? Oh, I did Y max of 100. Change that to 10. All right. Now, the data that I've got in for my equation is actually too large for this graph on the default settings to see. But I can use my zoom feature, and so I'm going to go zoom, and this time I'm going to use option 0. I'm going to scroll down. I know what it is. Zoom fit. I'm going to hit zoom fit and hit enter. And that's going to launch my graph where at least I see something. And so I've got this graph. So let's look here. And I'm going to do a little bit of adjustments in the window settings. Well, one, I know I'm not going to sell any negative sandwiches, so I'm going to set it to 0. And because it wants to know what the profit is on 1,400 sandwiches, well, I'm going to go ahead and set this to my Y max to 1,500. Well, I want to know what happens when I sell 1,400 sandwiches. I could have a loss, but I'm going to change my Y maximum over here to, well, I'm going to change it to 6,000. Now let's look at the graph. All right, that looks a little better. So I had to make a few adjustments based on what I know about the data. And now I want to find out, okay, what's Y going to equal when X is 1,400? In other words, when I sell 1,400 sandwiches, what's Y going to equal? Well, I can use this calc feature, which I hit second trace, which is calc. And it brings up, the first option here is value. And I'm going to select value. And you can see it brings X equals, and it's asking me, okay, well, when X equals what? Well, when X, the number of sandwiches, is 1,400, what's Y going to equal? And Shazam, it's the same thing we figured out manually, 5,840. Now, I had to make those window adjustments to be able to bring up an x equals 1400. Otherwise, it would just say, it'd give me one of these idiot symbols again, quit or go to, because I don't have a big enough range. In my domain wouldn't be large enough, and my range wouldn't be large enough to fix it. And I can see where this little cursor is. Well, there it is. Now remember, I set my x maximum to 1500. I set my y maximum to 6,000, which is why it's up here close to the top. There's my equation. Y1 equals 5x less 1160. And my profit after selling 1,400 sandwiches is 5,840. Just show you a couple of new tricks on your graphing calculator how to find the value of x, or when x is a certain value, what is your y, your independent variable, going to be.